So she was officially diagnosed with PANDAS, pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric disorder associated with streptococcal infections, but no one child shows up the same way. One of the things that I remember too, we typically do pre-medicate with antibiotics when our kids and even adults that have brain inflammation go in for a tonsillectomy, adenoidectomy, because they can seed their bloodstream with bacteria and you'll get a flare after the surgery. So I remember that she didn't have strep growing out of her tonsils, but she had some really disgusting, what we call gram-negative endotoxin producing organisms. And one in particular, a large amount was called Fusobacterium nucleatum. Now, a little bit of that is okay, like 6% or so, but she had a large percentage, and that is being associated with Alzheimer's disease and colon cancer. And we see it in children who are not neurotypical and in adults who have neurodegeneration here at our practice. I I remember, like you said, you're analytical, you need data, and I think that that was very reassuring afterwards to see what was growing in her tonsils. And then for you to see, and you're doubting yourself. And I think too, the questions that go through parents' minds, and if you care to reflect on that, it's like, why would we want to remove tonsillar tissue or adenoidal tissue that is meant to be a barrier to infection? So if you can think back to some of this stuff that you went through in your mind?
Yes, and so, and it really spawned out of the conversation you and I were having around the details in the data. And so what really was, to me is that the junk that was in her tonsils can cross the blood-brain barrier and attack the basal ganglia and lead to longer term. And I was like, okay, so we really quickly did a what I'll call high-level risk assessment and says, okay, you don't need these for longevity. What is the worst that can happen here is that we see improvement. And so my husband and I went through that conversation pretty quickly, but it was really that data saying, you've seen this in multiple patients and seen success and also seen what can hide in there that can cross that blood-brain barrier.